Alright, so once you have your template, get the foil, and we're just going to trace it out. And I just use a ballpoint pen for this. Alright, now you can use scissors, but I've found most of the edges are square, or straight I should say. So I just use a rotary tool. And again, you can use scissors, but I find that goes a lot easier. Now when it comes to this is where that plastic housing is on the door. Leave it a little bit big, that way you can do the final trim on the door itself, rather than having to cut another piece. And same with the bottom lip. So, there we go. Template, piece of foil. Now let's go check the corners, because we have to trim this right up to it. So first, just do a general check. And keep in mind, I did leave the bottom and this part a little big, so start at the top. Check that, check the width. So we want it to come just above the actual piece, so you have to keep checking your top side. And I found if you just do one of those, now, the little bit of gap here is okay, because there's going to be where the materials are stitched together, which will kick it out maybe a 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch, and then there's going to be a rib around the edge, which will also push it out, and that will help to push up against the piece of plastic, because these are going to be the main points where light's coming through. So I start with the batting. just spread it out as best you can. Keep it flat. Take your template and try to maximize your cut. And what I try to do is I give myself a good hand at the top and the bottom. That just helps with pulling the material tight as it's being stitched. And the sides about the same. So that's one, and now we need a second one, because there's one on each side. Alright, and that's the batting. So this right here is the fleece. You don't really need it, but I did find that it helps block some of the light through the stitching itself. Grab a piece of the batting. There we go. Now the nylon. Again, grab a piece of batting. For this one, use the other piece of nylon. So now we have the back piece of batting. Be the foil. Piece of fleece. Next piece of batting. And then the top material. So you can see that's how it's layered. Now we need to try to smooth out the nylon as best we can. Now you can't really iron creases out of nylon. But you can minimize them. If you put the iron too hot, you're just going to start melting and curling. And then I go back and do it a second time. So the idea with this isn't to get it completely flat, like if you were ironing cotton. but it's to minimize these creases that you see here. So take the one you just ironed, either hang it up or lay it flat so you don't have more creases. So when you go to iron, you gotta press down a lot. Sort of just stretch the material. So if you see, this is that first section where there were a lot of creases on the side. And they're still there, but they're just not pronounced anymore. Now what I'm doing here is I'm lining everything up to what will be the top edge. So you don't want to drag the fleece around. You need to lift it up. So if you see, try to line these up as even as possible. Doesn't have to be perfect, but what we're going to do is we're going to just run a quick stitch down here to mount all the material together. That way we lock everything in place and you don't end up with one of your materials on your first stitch going sideways. So now over to the sewing machine. And again, the idea is just to run a quick stitch. And the most important part of this is you want your top and bottom fabrics to stay lined up. The middle will stay all locked together, but the top has a tendency to just float, and same with the bottom. So line up your materials, grab this top edge,